Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I have something different than usual for you. It is not so much what I will be talking about and sharing with you, but it is what I will show you. And in truth, believe it or not, even I do not really know what is inside this box. Well, I have an idea, obviously. This is a gift from a dear friend and colleague of mine from work who recently moved, switched houses, and while packing and unpacking his things, he found this box that is a leftover from his grandfather. He believes, or at least that's what he told me, that it dates to sometime in the 1920s. After his grandfather was married, he and his young wife went for their honeymoon to China. I don't know any more details of this. I doubt that even my friend and colleague knows anything more. But as part of it, his grandfather was always interested in ship models, and he himself built a few, including the inevitable for Connecticut Charles W. Morgan. But while they were on this vacation in China, he bought this box. It is manufactured specifically for the tourist industry in the 1920s and purportedly contains traditional Chinese junk. Let's hope that the thing itself is not junk, but it is not really the sort of scale model that you would expect from this in the SYSTER channels. This is not museum quality. This is specifically done for the tourist industry. But because of its age, it is nearly 100 years old by now. It already has a historical value all of its own in the broader context of the time, in the context of the social changes of extended travel for people, the interest in the tourist industry and the money that the tourist industry brings, the souvenirs and gifts that are manufactured specifically for the purposes to sell to unwary tourists. In other words, all the evils of today's travel emerged back then. And in this context, the model, regardless whether it is an accurate historical scale representation of a junk or it is just stylized, similar to, the sort of sloops that are still built and sold in, let's say, Backway in the Caribbean. Beautiful, but hardly something that you would consider a scale model and use as a museum piece. But such things do have a value of their own. Furthermore, the value of this particular example is infinitely increased by the fact that this is original packaging. This is as it was. Yes, the nails have been removed. The gentleman, long gone now, of course, has opened the box at some point in the past, then partially re-nailed it. We have removed the nails now so that I can lift the lid. And I have had a peek inside, I will admit to you, but I have never unpacked it. Partially because I'm an archaeologist. I need something to be documented in situ as is. So to use a professional term, I need a pre-disturbance survey. So that is where you, my viewers, come into play. Because this is the documentation part. We have the video record of how things are packed inside the box, what is inside the box. The one thing that I'm pretty sure is missing here on the lid, it says, open here, unpack with care, see instructions tacked inside this cover. I already know that there are no instructions tacked to the inside. So they probably have gone missing over the past century or so since the model. Again, the archaeologist in me absolutely rebels against the thought of disturbing an archaeological material that is standing. And as I said, by now this really is a historical material. As Stephen Maturin would have said, God between us and evil. Let's hope that I do not damage anything as I lift this out. And to tell you the truth, I probably am more curious than you are of what it looks like and how this is, because as I said, I have only seen it from above. I have never really looked at it. So I will move the chili model, junk model, doesn't say anything more there, or at least I cannot read it at the moment. So the rudder is clearly removable. At the moment, I have no idea what is this. First of all, this is as good as any time to point out that Chinese seafaring is not area that I can see. This presumably comes originally supposed to be here. So I do not see any other logical position for this. I have to admit that I know next to nothing about Chinese seafaring. The one and only part that I do know for sure is that famous book about 1432, how the Chinese discovered America. No, this is nonsense. The 450-foot junks that book talks about, it is nonsense. How do I know it? Because years ago, in the foremost maritime historical journal in the world, the Mariner's Mirror, there was a long polemics. The author was rightly criticized by structural engineers that what he proposes is impossible to construct. And he immediately, in a very modern way, said that anyone who criticizes him, incidentally, he was a white fellow, this is out of lack of appreciation of other cultures and admittance that other cultures may have created something that Europeans could not. Be this as it may, eventually the name-calling got to a heated point and two Chinese scholars interfered in the conversation. The one pointed out that engineering principles apply regardless which continent and which country it is, and yes, the engineers are right, 450-foot wooden vessel is not possible to construct and was not possible even in ancient China. You couldn't anymore argue with him. The second Chinese scholar pointed out that not only is the structural engineering applying to everybody, but people who write books should learn Chinese first and translate the documents properly. And he pointed out that the author had mistranslated the dimensions of the vessel and brought them to the much more reasonable 100-foot or so. So, that is the limit of my knowledge of Chinese seafaring. So I do have a lot of respect of the ingenious adaptation of a vessel to the local conditions, and they were perfect for the conditions in which they had to operate. But simply they are outside of my experience and knowledge. I have never worked on one. I do not know much, except that they have a certain beauty all of their own. Now, the real issue here is that the rig is probably silk sail, maybe? And the rig, as you can see, has begun to disintegrate. There are parts that clearly have broken. For example, the battens, that much I do know about the rig. You see the line that is holding the battens of the sail towards the mast. Some of them have broken, like this one over here. This at the top, the one below it, and the middle one also. At the very bottom, the batten has separated from the sail itself. So this will be a really delicate exercise in repairing it and cleaning it. I can see dust attached to the sails. It might be, this would have been the main mast. It might be possible, it probably is possible in fact, to use the foremast as guide to how to fix the mainmast. The problem is that the archaeologists in me screams loudly that none of the material should be replaced and the repairs should include the original material. Imagine the joy that this is going to give to the SYSTER channel. They're really gonna love me for this idea. Now, unfortunately, there are some broken pieces here, but it looks to me like I am in dire need of finding literature on traditional Chinese vessels and how they were rigged if I want to. Okay, so the foremast is definitely in better condition and can be used as a guide to reconstructing the rig farther back. Now, if you think that I feel at the moment like a little boy with a new toy, you're spot on. That is exactly how the situation is. The need to touch and check everything. This is... If I have to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what this is. But I'm sure that I'll figure out. It is half carved on one side. My first idea was that this is an oar of some kind. But look, it is rounded on one side, unworked on the other side, it is flat cut. And on here, it is exactly the opposite. So this must have some other purpose, but what exactly, I do not know yet. So some of these things, this, for example, is another of the things that I do not know. Well, this probably is a gangplank, actually. Look at it, it has the battens to prevent you from sliding downwards, so it could be a gangplank. As we agreed already, it is not necessarily to scale, and there is about 100 years worth of dust. Could I have a brush, please? Thank you. Let's see which of this is soft enough. Let's hope that none of my conservative friends and colleagues are looking at me. Ooh, because they probably will have a heart attack and will have a far better idea of how to clean this vessel. But cleaned it must be. Let's remove this must before I extend the damage to the point where it can no longer be repaired. Right, this is the anchor right up here in the bow. This is actually pretty heavy, so it could be iron. It is not too corroded, not yet at any rate. And as you can see, the lines are not to scale at all. They're exactly the same everywhere. There must have been something that was protruding here from which probably the anchor used to hang, like a cat head. But it is broken and I do not see the pieces here at the moment. No, I don't. It does appear that the hatches are removable. And I'm almost beginning to sneeze by now. The hull is carved from solid piece of wood. That is quite clearly visible here because the area for the hatch is chiseled into the wood. It is opening, there is an opening, and there are some bits and pieces inside that seem to have been broken off something. Ooly. Yeah, the model can best be described as quick and dirty manufacturing for the tourist trade, but it has a certain beauty and charm all of its own, probably exactly because of this fact. And of course, it is quaint, it is somewhat old by now. This also is cut rather than glued. Interesting. I'm not sure what kind of wood this is. Probably some kind of pine or softwood. At any rate, it is nothing exotic. Okay, this appears to be probably better not to remove it, since this is the mast partners here. These contain the mast partners. Now, as far as I can tell, this here may be part of the sheeting of the main mast. Looks like it. Line for the and a hook that likely also is part of the sheeting. Chinese junk sails have a very interesting sheeting system that the lovers of the rig claim allow fantastic control and make the rig usable by short-handed crews with limited strength, that catastrophic jives or wearing a ship are not possible with this rig, so it is used by a dedicated group of yachtsmen, usually the short-handed cruisers. I have zero experience of this rig, and I cannot comment on its question. I am certainly deeply appreciative of this gift. Having opened one box and given you a preview of one of the gifts that I have received, now it occurs to me that since this is broadly speaking a seafaring channel, a history of seafaring, and it is not only and solely ship modeling channel, perhaps in one of the future episodes I will show you another extremely valuable gift that I received some years ago, a gift that I deeply appreciate. So maybe I will do such a video in the future too. As of now, ladies and gentlemen, I will continue enjoying myself with cleaning my junk. I wish you, I'm sure that I can make some sort of inappropriate joke about garbage, junks, etc. But I shall be a very polite boy, and I will play like a good boy with my toy, and I will wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope to see you on the channel again soon. Bye.